when we talk about the 2024 elections, one of the consistent and strongest attacks against your government is on inflation. Even now, the biggest issue being debated by opposition and being asked for on the streets of India is, prices of commodities, but petrol and diesel prices play a very big role in that. Currently, a litre of petrol continues to be around roughly 100 rupees across India. In January 2019, before your last government came to power, petrol was 68 rupees. Since then, it once became 75, it became 83, and is currently, for example, 96 in the national capital. So my first question to you is, hasn't the government failed, and you're the Petroleum and Natural Gas Minister, in mitigating this stress on the common public?
Let me start by thanking you and your esteemed channel, CNN-News18, for having me here. And thank you also for giving me this opportunity to nail the lie right at the outset. You said there has been some criticism against the government. No, there's no criticism against the government. There is a false canard which has been spread against the government that prices are very high. It used to be 60 rupees then. I mean, why don't you say in 1973 it was probably 4 rupees or 5 rupees? You have to see what is happening in the world today. And I have some statistics which I'm quite happy to share with you as to what is happening to global prices during a pretty representative period. Now, I have some figures here for June 2021 and June 2023.
Yes.
In terms of global increases, okay? And some of the figures that stare you in the face is that even in a highly developed industrial economy like the United States, which is a $24 trillion economy or $25 trillion, the price of petrol has gone up between June 21 and June 23. It has gone up from 59.58 to 77.55, which is an increase of 30%.
We have these numbers on our screen.
No, it's gone up by, since I don't know what numbers you have there, I presume that they are the correct numbers.
They are the correct numbers.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
In Canada, UK, in Nepal, in Sri Lanka, in Bangladesh, petrol and diesel prices, if you compare that, let me take South Asia. There are some particularly difficult cases. Sri Lanka, petrol price went up during that period by 79.61% and 130.65%, diesel respectively. Pakistan by 50.83% and 40.81%, petrol and diesel. In Nepal by 42.39% and 46.35%. Now, my submission to you is that you compare products and prices which are broadly similar. I mean, if you're a trade negotiator, there's a term, produit similar. You can't compare an elephant with a horse. They are different. But if you look at across the board, in our neighborhood, in the developed industrialized countries, this is the situation.
So I have these numbers. I think these are numbers that your ministry has also shared. So the percentage increase in developed countries has been far more for both petrol and diesel, you're saying, over the last
Not only
2
developed,
years.
developed and developing.
And developing.
See, I've taken as a developing country, representative countries around India, South Asia. I can take...
My only question to that would be that should we compare ourselves to a Sri Lanka, to a Pakistan, to a Nepal?
No. So then do me a favor.
Yes.
We are the 5th largest economy now. We were the 10th largest. We're going to be the 3rd largest economy, say, in a year and a half's time. Compare me to the United States. Compare me to Germany. We are still much lower. Our increase has been 2.36%. Germany's increase is 19%. So you can't have have it both ways. That don't compare me with the developed countries around India. You can compare me with the industrialized West. On all accounts, this was achieved essentially because the Prime Minister was able to reduce the central government excise duty on 2 occasions, November of 2021 and May of 2022. Now, if you see the differences between the state governments, there's a marked difference. If you bring the statistics on in the state governments, see the BJP ruled states and the other ones.
Can we have those numbers on the screen as well? So your point being that you've done what you could do, both in terms of international pressures on crude pricing because of the Ukraine war, and internally also BJP has done more. Have I got it right?
No. I would, if I were you, I'd be more generous in terms of the appreciation. I would say you have done what you can, which means I'm throwing up my hands. No, we've done remarkably well. Petrol price comparison, let me give you. USA 30%, Canada 30.15%, Canada 24%, France 22%, Germany 19%. These are all increases. Spain 17%, Italy 14.6%, and India 2.36%. You are 1/5 of the lowest, that is 10.93%. It's UK. You're 1/7 of the Italians, and you're 1/15 of the US. These are increases. Now, why do I say that this is something that ought to be acknowledged in the first instance? And after you acknowledge it, you say, all right, we're all in it together. If international prices go up, there's a reason for that. 85% of the crude that you consume in India is imported. Why is the international price going up? Because there is a producing countries grouping. I am deliberately not using the word cartel. They want to control the amount of energy or crude oil which is released in the market. And if you ask them about prices, they will tell you, we don't control the prices, we only control the amount of crude that comes in. Now, if you tell me, if you're an undergraduate student of the situation, you'll know if the amount of crude oil required is curtailed, prices will go up. And yet prices have, because we have played the market card, by and large we've been able to hold ground, and our oil companies took a big beating. The central government, at a time when it was feeding 800 million people free food, free rations, dry rations thrice in a day, they still did not increase prices. So what's happened today? Prices haven't gone up, as far as I remember, for 1 year, since April of 2022, and the percentage decline. Okay, in real terms, this is a decline, because you've got a dollar exchange rate somewhere in between also. But all said and done, we have managed to do this. Now, you can say, what more do you expect to do? And that is where I would be more positive, but let me first do some comparison. Let's look at petrol price comparison between BJP-ruled and non-BJP ruled states. I think anyone who has looked at this should stop talking about. This is what my headline drafting friends here call Pardafash. Is that correct? Okay. In Gandhinagar, the price, and in Jaipur, the price difference is 11 rupees 85 per litre. When you go and fill your tank, you don't fill 1 litre. How much you fill? What is the tank size of a, say, medium-sized car? 30 litres? 30 litres or so? More. So 30 litres into 11.85. So if you were filling up a car in, say, Gandhinagar, and the difference in Jaipur, the difference would be something like 450 rupees per fill. If you look at the difference between Guwahati and Kolkata, rupees 8 difference. If it's a difference between Lucknow and Bangalore, 5 rupees 37 paise. And between Goa and Raipur, 4 rupees 77 paise. In each case. So, my submission to you, madam, even at the risk of saying something which is self-serving, and I'm very proud of being able to do that, this is not criticism. This is a canard which is sought to be spread. And I think people who throw statistics at us ought to be ashamed of themselves.
So you're saying this inflation charge on you doesn't stick, and
no, I'm not saying.
Will it not hurt you ahead of 2024?
No. First of all, I am merely saying that if you look at the one commodity which in your perception contributes to the so-called inflation discussion, I've just given you the hard facts. Let me also give you the facts on gas. Just give me a second. Natural gas. Okay? There's a difference between the gas that you produce and sell in a cylinder, and the natural gas which comes in liquefied form. It comes at the port of entry, you gasify it, goes through a pipe, and it's it. The increase between April 2021 and September 2022, I'm taking you the percentage change. Henry Hub USA increased 262% increase. Japan, Korea marker, 648% increase. TTF Europe, 850% increase. NBP London, 677, and CNG price in India, only 75. So all I'm saying is, if it were an ideal world where energy was just available either off the ground or from a tap, and you had none of these factors, then we would be having a different discussion. The fact of the matter is, India today still imports, if my figures are correct, about 50% of its gas and about 80% of the crude oil. And yet, in spite of those constraints, we've been able to keep the prices not only stable but low, which has meant that the government has foregone the revenue which comes from excise. The BJP states have reduced their VAT. Some of the other states, regrettably, have not. I'm not doing name calling. Now, and more important that the OMCs took a beating, if I remember correctly, on gas. They lost something like 28,000 crores. We had to compensate them, I think, by 22,000 crores. Equally on petrol, they took a beating. We gave them equity, I think, about 30,000 crores or something like that. So, coming back to inflation. Yes, inflation should be a healthy discussion in a democracy, more so in India. But when we have a discussion on inflation, at least on petrol, let's find out who's responsible.
All right, fair enough. You've presented the numbers. Let the public make its mind. The other question I want to ask you is about urban development, your other ministry. And by the way, you are the longest serving housing and urban affairs minister in the history of India. Can I begin by asking you, how did you manage that?
How did I manage what?
What's your secret? How did you continue to be the urban and housing?
That's a very polite way of saying, why didn't you get sacked?
No, that's not what I mean. I mean, there must be a secret. You've made the longest run.
No, there's no secret on anything. I mean, there's no secret on anything. I mean, look, with all humility, I must tell you, it is entirely the Honorable Prime Minister's prerogative as to which of his colleagues he appoints to a particular portfolio. Now, I think there was some eyebrows raised, if I may say that, when I was appointed, because I came after 39 years in the world of foreign security and trade policy.
Yes.
All right? I was a Foreign Service career diplomat, 39 years there. I spent 6 years in the international world of foreign and security policy, think tanking, and then I've been minister for nearly 6 years. So, I'm always reluctant to answer the question, how have you served so long? Because, anything you might say might be held against you. As before you're taking somebody in any statement that you make now, it can be held against you. Look, I feel deeply privileged that the Honorable Prime Minister chose me without any known experience in this field. Although there was somebody I worked with very closely in my international thing, who was a former Prime Minister of Australia, Kevin Rudd. He was the chair of the Independent Commission on Multilateralism when I was its Secretary General. And when he heard that I had become Minister for Housing and Urban Affairs, he had a very interesting point to make. He said, trust somebody like Mr. Modi, because out of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals that we are dealing with, SDGs, 6 of them are dealt with my ministry in some form or the other.
So can I come to that?
11, SDG 11 and so on.
Yes, so can I come to that? You obviously helmed Smart Cities initiative. You also helmed the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban. Just speaking of urban development and smart cities, you would see what Delhi is going through currently, right?
It's entirely Mr. Kejriwal's fault.
So you're saying you have no role to play in that?
Land is a state subject, yaar. I mean, if you can't start a discussion with that, I mean, this guy gets up every morning and makes some false claim or the other, some absurd claim. I had the privilege of hosting the Honorable Chief Minister of Haryana the other day for a meeting in my room, and we were discussing serious subject. When he came, there was a press, and somebody asked him this question that he's blaming you. I mean, admire Mr. Khattar's, Manohar Lalji's restraint. He said with a straight face, slight smile, he said, I think there's a difference between a barrage and a dam. So, I mean, if your local authorities, I am not going into name calling because I think this, as my friend Gajan Singh ji said, the Jal Shakti minister, it's not the time for name calling. But if you're going to tell me, I'll say, you have a mechanism to deal with this. You set up meetings. Meetings don't take place. You're supposed to, when I was Joint Secretary Navy, we used to have something like desilting, cleaning the, this thing. If local authorities under new, I saw one of my colleagues in the party, I find him a sense of, he said, please let us know how much you spent on advertisement and how much energy or time or resources you spent on what you're supposed to do. Look, young lady, land is a state subject.
No, sir. Let me come in. I'm just talking about the concept of urban development. This is also the National Capital Region. I just want to understand from you, isn't India failing when it comes to all of the
Not
cities?
at all.
I'm not just talking about Delhi alone.
India is not failing.
Indian cities.
No,
this is the same case in Bengaluru. This is the same case in Chennai. The same case in Trivandrum.
That's first of all, I think before we carry this discussion too further, there is something called a climate change overall process. All right? These rains, I don't know what your meteorological friends tell you, whether these were the heaviest in 42 years or 50 years. I just saw pictures. New York and other cities have had the most severe rainfall in 50 years. That will take place. All right. So you will be. I am a professional. When I look at a figure, I'll say, all right, we had this last year, we had this previous year. Is it getting better or not? Are you devoting the resources required or not? I'm telling you, I have written N number of letters to chief ministers, to chief secretaries. My colleague has written saying, please, on urban flooding, take the following measures. Some states have, some have not. What happens is, because memory is short, hopefully they'll turn around saying the worst is over, so now business as usual. No, you have budgetary provisions to deal with these things. And some of the things that we are doing in the Swachh Bharat scheme, for instance, are bringing immediate results. What happens? We have now a source segregation at the point of production. Wet waste, dry waste. Then you have collection from the place of production, all right? Now, two things. In 2014, the percentage of waste which was reprocessed was 17%. Today, in the 9 years of the Modi government, that has gone up from 17% to 76%. And we are taking it now for 100% reprocessing. So it's a legacy issue. We've inherited a problem. But the assessment comes, are you better off today or worse off? And I make the case to you, we are much better off. Wherever there are BJP governments, I can sit down with you and say, I'm not saying you've been able to get rid of the problem. The remediation on legacy dump sites, the kind of work that is being done elsewhere, yes, we are doing better. I'm not saying this to criticize anyone because I don't think this is to be critical.
Yes.
But at the height of the thing when it's taking place, you have ministers of the Delhi government following a shoot and scoot. Are uska kya hua? Tumne ye nahi kiya, maine ye bheja tha. You don't fight with your people at that stage. People come into this, roll up their sleeves or their trousers, get into the trenches and solve the problem. Should be the spirit.
Okay, but let me ask you, you've recently said that urban planning restricts rather than facilitates development in India. What did you mean exactly, and what are the changes that you would like to see happen in urban?
Please give me the full quote, because that's, I think, a very...
No, this is from a newspaper report where you said urban planning rules today restrict more than they facilitate development. You would like them to be more wholesome and holistic so that more development can take place and restrict people more.
No, it's very simple. The whole concept of urbanization, you see, before 2014, there was a tendency for people to think this is a problem, we don't embrace it. But Mr. Modi came along and he realized that today you have a very interesting situation. I mean, the statistics will startle you. I think cities account for a very small percentage of our land area. I think if taken together, the cities will not be more than 3 or 4 or 5% city. They account for 60% of our GDP. And it's going up. when in 1947, the urban population was 17%, but the total population was 350 million. Today, our urban population should be 30%, and our overall population would be what? 1.4 billion? So, urban, the capacity to think urban, to plan. I mean, how many universities? It's only after Mr. Modi has come that we are encouraging universities to take up urban studies in their curricula. We are now encouraging newly graduated engineers to first spend 1 or 2 years in the urban local bodies as interns. There's a tulip scheme. So, we are doing that. But it must ultimately include citizen participation. What is the existing system? Existing system is, out of the 4,900 urban local bodies we have, many of them have matured to the point where they're raising, through municipal bonds, they've raised 4,000 crores, I think. But we want everyone to do it. But normally, the traditional style is, if you are a locally elected politician, bhai ye jo log rehte hain, to hamare hi parivar ke hain, hamare sathi hain, why collect taxes from them? That was the attitude. Today, it's very different.
Okay.
People take pride. Like, for instance, in the Swachhta Sarvekshan every year, 1 or 2 cities come right on top. One of them, these are in Indore, for instance.
Yes.
And when the garbage collection van goes out in the morning, there is merriment, there is singing, etc. People realize if you have a Swachh environment, land value goes up. I mean, there's a difference between 2 very famous markets which was given to refugees in Delhi itself. One is very high prices, the other one not so high prices, roughly the same time. So that realization is coming. So it's not the rules, it's the consciousness which must seep into people. That is what I meant.
Okay, I want to ask you, move into the realm of politics now, and not just your ministries.
I was waiting for that. I thought the whole session was 1 year to go for politics, so I thought...
I thought I have the minister with me. I'll ask a couple of questions related to your 2 very key ministries.
So you've done that. Now let's come to politics.
Yes. So I want to ask you on the issue of infrastructure. Between your ministries and several of your colleagues' ministries, some of the big ticket infrastructure that is being built, and you obviously helped the Awas Yojana as well, there are like 75 lakh homes that have been already completed. But on the issue of big ticket infrastructure, the second term of the Modi government seems to be acing that department.
My question, what?
Acing that department. There's a lot of big ticket infrastructure coming up across the country, airports, etc., highways, and the government seems to be doing a fabulous job on that. Even the critics would accept. But my question is this. Recent election results from states show that people are also looking for an immediate gain
You mean the reveries?
Well, that's the term you use.
I don't use it. I mean, you use it.
The Prime Minister has used the word reverie.
Okay.
You can call them freebies. But my question to you is, and seriously, Minister, public also wants an immediate gain and not just long-term development that, let's say, the Modi government may be doing. Is the BJP prepared politically to cut that so-called freebie advantage that the opposition, or the guarantees model of the opposition? How are you going to do that?
Now, anybody who's watching this exchange would say that you have a very subdued, very quiet minister who's responding to a barrage of strong questioning. So let me start by puncturing a few holes in your questioning itself. Short term, medium term, long term. No matter which way you look at it, the Modi government's track record in the last 9 years has been a win-win for the country. Let me start with some basic things. The entire spend on the urban rejuvenation in the 10 years from 2004 and 14 was 1,57,000 crores. I'm not going into, you're saying big project, small project, small. Let me give you the overall picture. In the urban spend, 1,57,000 crores over a 10-year period. Along comes Mr. Modi in May 2014. Our schemes were conceptualized and implemented from June 2015. Madam, from June 2015, which was 8 years ago, almost exactly, the expenditure today is over 18 lakh crores. There's 1,57,000 crores, then there is it. Now, short term, what is short term? The Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, don't take just the urban, take the rural also.
Sure.
Total is what, 3 crore homes?
Yes.
3 crore homes have been sanctioned. Now, if you come to the urban part, 1 crore 12 lakhs have been sanctioned and grounded. Or 1 crore 9 lakh have been grounded. And 75 lakhs, that's the figure that you've given, madam, they have been given to the beneficiary.
Handed over, yes.
So 75 lakh guys who are households who've got it, it's not a promissory note. It is actually they moved in. The Prime Minister's handed over keys or the Chief Minister's handed over keys. Then you look at all the other schemes of the Modi government. All right. Look, I am not trying to say, now just because you completed most of your work in the first term or before this thing, look, I've had the privilege of being a civil aviation minister, right? Many of these airports you're talking about, which are now Jewar is going to come in, that is done in my time. So it's a development on all fronts simultaneously. So what Mr. Modi has demonstrated, and I say this with a great deal of satisfaction and confidence, that good governance means the delivery of goods and services to your people, to the beneficiaries, is also good politics. Therefore, that good governance is helping result in impact in the political system. Now, if you take 1 or 2 elections out of context, now let me tell you.
For example, free water, free electricity promises,
look,
stipends monthly.
Look, there will always be an attempt to say, isko free kar do. I saw an ad in a Delhi newspaper, I think it was an English language paper, full page, that henceforth in Punjab you will have 0 bills on electricity. All right? Fair enough. I think there comes a time when people have to make that determination. First of all, the ability to comply. We had an election in a state government recently and said we are going to make bus rides free, I think for women to start with, I don't know. Then when they got in, there was a conductor. They threw the conductor out. He said, "Agar ticket nahi hai, what are you doing here?" Then one lady's arm got chopped off and other things are happening. So look, the line of division between responsible political discourse and what I call a lumpen, irresponsible, we'll make this free, we'll make that free. Yes, if you're generating the resources, you have the ability to divert. But if you're running a large debt, like in Punjab, I think it was 3,81,000 crores when we had the last election, it would be a multiplier of that. Including in the southern states, they're running. So what do you want to do? You want a Sri Lanka kind of situation?
No, the question is not what I want to do.
No, we're going to win the election.
It is working with
oh, yeah, it's going to work. There's a difference in the dynamic between a state assembly election and a national election. It's happened when I was writing my second book. I remember it was after the victories of the opposition party in 2 of the states. And I had written that the BJP is heading for a very substantive improvement on the 2014 results. And my publisher sent me a note saying that, "Sir, would you like to revisit your conclusions on the state assembly results?" And I said, "Thank you very much for drawing my attention. It had crossed my mind. And please allow me to write an extended introduction," which I said, this will result in our crossing 300. So, issue is, yes, there will be attempts to forge unity. You have some meeting taking place, I think, in one of the southern states.
Yes.
Next time they'll hopefully go to Himachal, if the rainwaters allow them there and the hospitality is extended. Look, there are fault lines in people. I'm not criticizing them. But, say, we are going to come together with one purpose, which is what? We must ensure that X does not get elected. Is that a plank on which you will go and face the people? When you come before the people, yes, you can say we will make everything free. Everything. From food, electricity, transport, everything. That's a political plank. But, the place where they're holding a meeting, they should do some serious introspection even in that city. And I'm very familiar with that city, where what are those promises which were made? How have they been delivered? In Punjab, they said any person who's got an educational qualification beyond a point, 1,000 rupees mahina for every bitya in the house, or somebody who's got a degree but doesn't have a job. Now, these are very easy things to talk about. And I think at the end of the day, they start tripping up. But I'm making the submission to you, good governance is equal to good politics, is what Modi ji and the BJP have consistently demonstrated. That will work.
So good economics is also good politics, you're saying. That's what Narendra Modi government has shown.
No. Good governance means what? You have to make sure that goods and services are delivered to people. I mean, you have very famous people who've been finance minister. They sometimes get up and make all kinds of statements. I read one by the other day. He said, "Ye Swachh Bharat mission hai, kya hai?" So I told my people, take it as a challenge. Find out what this is. And they did. It was somebody's private land. So I said, don't get overawed. You know, when these missions started, people said, "Arey bhai, swachhta kya hua?" Today, the fear of losing your third-party verification on being ODF, open defecation free,
Yes.
is, believe me, Shivani, a real thing for people. When the Swachhta Sarvekshan takes place, I have ministers of state governments calling me, "Sir, isme weightage kam hai, isme thoda dekh lijiye," which means they care for it. It's the public and a evaluation system which is writing your, what is it called, an annual confidential report on how clean or, correct you've been on that.
Okay, so you've taken the question on the opposition unity. I don't need to ask you that. I just want to quickly open up the audience round as well. We see hands going up already. My colleague Shireen is going to get some questions fired in.
Thank you, Shivani.
Good evening, sir. I am a Vayu Sainik veteran, Krishan Mitru. I have some urban infrastructure questions on two topics. Number one is Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016 versus the real estate industry in India. Second one is regarding the floods. Coming to the first point, in the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, real estates have been driven into the NCLAT, including the home buyers. Now, home buyers have been specified by our present Chief Justice of India, who says that home buyers are consumers. They come under the Consumer Protection Act and not under the IBC. Your ministry and MCA went to the government, got it passed overnight that home buyers come under the IBC. Now, very briefly, home buyers are the medium class category who have been affected by the real estate industry. There are thousands and lakhs in number all over the country.
Sir, could you just fire in your question?
I'm happy to listen to him, but I think you have to ask, because I hear a statement, much of what you're saying I am familiar with.
Sir, what's your question?
And
Very quickly.
I'm also on the side of the home buyers, but many of the things you're saying are factually wrong. So, okay, let me respond.
Sir, why are we not taking the home buyers out of the IBC?
Okay, all right.
Now,
Let's take that. Let's allow the minister to respond.
okay, Mr. Mitru, is that finished or has he got another one?
Floods
Okay.
also.
No, let me complete this,
Sir.
because...
Sir.
Look, there are two things. We had this peculiar situation that 70 years after we became an independent country, we did not have a regulator in the real estate sector. And we did not have a regulator in the real estate sector for a variety of reasons. And I am quite happy to be upfront and completely candid about it, because there were vested interests. Even when RERA was being drafted, a lot of people said, no, this is too little, too late. And as was to be expected, and I'm not taking any credit, much before I became a minister, when RERA came into being, there were multiple challenges mounted, and the learned Supreme Court passed them all on, I think, to the Mumbai High Court. I became a minister in September 2017, 3rd September, and I was very confident that the court will throw out these challenges. So the first big victory we won was that RERA came into being. Now, if you look at the performance of RERA, both as a dispute settlement mechanism, and if you look at the performance of RERA in order to, bring under its ambit all the pipeline projects, that was a great victory. Now, insofar as the insolvency NCLT process is concerned, please look at the individual cases. Many of those people have gone there themselves. The people who, the mechanism is not working, I can tell you why it's not working. We can have a separate discussion. But we have taken a number of steps. For instance, we are bringing down the cases. I have appointed a committee under my friend Amitabh Khan to look at the remaining projects which need to be resolved, and they have, I think, done their homework and they're going to be submitting a rule. We have done several other things. So, but I think we should have a separate discussion on that.
Yeah, all right. I do thank the gentleman for the question. We don't have any more time for your follow-up. And I also, one second, sir. I also have our next guest in the house. So I just want to have enough time with the minister to fire rapid-fire questions. So you have a yes or no banner next to you.
I thought there was another question coming.
No, we don't have any more time.
You don't have time?
No.
The next speaker is here? So, okay.
Yes.
Okay,
I just want you to take that banner, thing next to you on the table. So where your papers are. There is a yes or no placard. So I'm just going to fire you some questions. These are going to be yes or no questions.
The answers facing me or the audience?
The audience.
Okay. Because I can have it both ways. If my answer is fixing, I said, no, it's one way here, another one there.
All right. Let me fire in some quick questions. I enjoyed being a diplomat more than being a politician and minister. Yes or no?
Question can't be answered. You have different challenges there, so I'm going to do something unprecedented. I'm not answering the question.
You must pick one.
No, I don't have to.
Okay. I am the better diplomat at home between me and my wife. Yes or no?
No, my wife is also a diplomat here.
Who's the better one? You?
No, hold on. No. Better is defined what? When we appeared in the UPSC exam in 1974, she topped the thing. So she's better at the whole thing. And she's been better all her life. So she's better.
So no.
No, she's better.
Yeah, so question was that are you better? So the answer
I'm
is
not better. Not at all. Okay. Anyone who in a public this thing takes a side which is against the, against, SDG 5, pata hai kya hai na? Gender equality. वो तो मरने वाली बात है भाई. नहीं, not at all. I like the lady in the front seat. She's cheering as she should.
Okay.
And I see the gentleman also. Okay.
All right. You didn't answer the first question, so I'm asking it in a different way.
Ask it again, I'll answer it.
You'll answer it? Yeah. I enjoyed being a diplomat more than being a politician and minister. Yes or no? No. Okay. So
your question was enjoy.
Yes.
Enjoy. As a diplomat, I couldn't speak up the way I can speak now.
Okay.
I get trolled also, I can do that also. If you said, what did you find more satisfying, I would have had a different answer. But I picked on that word, enjoy.
Yes,
no, a politician is good. Because you give me gali, I'll give you gali in return. So enjoyment to usme hai na.
Okay, connected to that is my next question. If I could do it all again, I would become a diplomat again. Yes or no? All right. Fuel and energy prices will witness a substantial cut before 2024 elections. Yes or no?
I'll direct you to where the answer might be found. No, it's the international scene. If today I took a review meeting, and a few days ago the prices were at 70 plus, today they're at $80 a barrel. Now, if the prices keep going up, your capacity to cushion a reduction is correspondingly less. So, I don't think a responsible minister should sit in a town hall and speculate on prices. Then you are not this thing. I think then you are, what kehte hai wo, trader on Dalal Street or something, no?
Okay, sir, I have 10 seconds. NDA will come back to power in 2024 with a bigger mandate than in 2019. Yes or no?
And I can give you a figure also.
Yes.
Last time I said 10% more. Okay? So we went from 270 something to 303. This time the choice is, and I'm still wavering, I think it will not be a 10% more, it will closer to a 20% more.